Peace.
Peace.
This is Joshua Miller Law, Mr. PhD. You're just now entering the cipher called real2reel360. K-Wise.
Peace, God.
Bring that beat in, kid.
Indeed.
Peace.
Yeah. What's going on, party people? Welcome to the Real2reel360 show. Let's get it in.
We do the knowledge and wisdom so you can understand. Real2reel360 shows in full command. We changing the game for how it all was taught. From bondage to freedom to an independent thought. Yo, the show is here to bring about a change for real. To lighten everyone so we all know the deal. 360 degrees is a fact. We created the show to give our love back to our communities so we can know what's going on and give them the support from knowledge to born. So if you're ready to learn, then it's time to go. Sit back and relax and enjoy our show. Peace.
Peace and blessings. What's going on? It's the one and only DJ K-Wise Allah, aka Kato, the Black Superhero. Welcome you to the Real2reel360 show. Peace to Allah's mighty 5% nation, the gods and earth, to all the human families of the planet Earth. I salute you with love, peace, and happiness. Let's get it in. Listen, we getting ready to get it started. And when I say get it started, I mean really get it in. This is some serious content that's about to go down and throw down. So we want you to grab your pen and paper, grab that phone, and get ready. Take notes and make phone calls because it's going to be a great show. But without further ado, I got to bring in my best part of me, my co-host with the most, my baby brother in God, none other than Joshua Miller Law, aka Mr. PhD. Peace, Almighty.
Peace, peace, peace to all our followers, listeners, and subscribers. Make sure that you tell a friend that Real2reel360 is where you need to be. Today, we're going to have a magnificent show. We have a young lady here that is phenomenal. When I say phenomenal, she wears many hats. She's a life coach, and she promotes, sexual health wellness. I will put it that way. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the great Miss Amber. Could you bring her on?
Peace.
Hey,
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Shout out to y'all for having me.
We've been anticipating having you on because we've been having a lot of discussions, and I've watched a few of your videos. And actually, I was introduced to one of your videos by a friend of the show's. So I was looking and I said, well, we need to address this publicly. You know what I'm saying? Because all the things that people think are taboo really isn't, and we are getting to the point where we need to step out and really address certain situations. But I want to give you an opportunity right now to introduce yourself to our followers and our listeners and let them know who you are and what you do.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Amber. I am a certified life coach, and I am the co-founder of HerpesCould, which is a platform that educates, empowers, and breaks the stigmas that exist around herpes and other STDs. I'm also the creator of a platform called Dear Great Blackman, the #1 platform on the planet for Black men. And that platform was created to encourage, uplift, and empower Black men and help them see their greatness. So I'm a full-time life coach, and I'm just out here living and learning and teaching what I've found to be true about life along the way. So I'm excited to be here and get into our conversation.
Right. So what was it to make you want to be an advocate for those who have sexually transmitted diseases?
Well, to be completely honest, I never had any intentions to be an advocate. I didn't even know there were such things as advocates for things like STDs. I had heard about, HIV and awareness around, that as a kid or growing up, but it wasn't until first of all, that I got an STD in 2018. I was diagnosed with herpes, HSV2 specifically. It wasn't until I got diagnosed, and at the time I was 33 and I was single, and I, don't have any kids. So I was just at this pivotal, crucial place in my life where that diagnosis kind of stopped me in my tracks, and it stopped me from living, and it really made me, question what I was going to do. And so I went through this period of healing, of transformation, of really just accepting it. And it was at that time that God kind of he put it on my heart that, you know, I didn't go through all of that just to keep that to myself. You know, I went through it to help others, and that, you know, it was more so of a decision that it was kind of made for me. It was like when I asked God to help me through this, help me accept my diagnosis, I didn't necessarily have to understand why it happened, but I just needed help with the acceptance part. It was like, okay, he helped me accept it, but in that acceptance, he was like, it was because it was to help others. And so he gave me the idea to make a YouTube video. And so that's what I did. So I already had a channel, but I made a video specifically talking about my herpes diagnosis and being diagnosed and things like that. And then just the response was so overwhelming. The stigma in society and lies and BS will make you think that, you know, everybody was going to hate me, talk about me, shame me, but I got so much love and so much, I was received so well, and it was so appreciated, my honesty and my, you know, just relatability, that kind of started me being an advocate. And I didn't even know that I was going to be one. It just, you know, I was kind of forced into that position from my transparency.
Now, far as with what you're saying, how do relationships go when you let them know that you have transmitted this STD?
Yeah, so it depends. If you still have issues with accepting it, your relationships are going to be problematic potentially, right? You're going to run into issues because, you know, people, I found along the way, people learn a lot about what to think about it by the way they see you living with it, right? So if I was depressed, or if I was always sad, or if I really felt ashamed, or like my self-worth was determined or altered by the fact that I had an STD, like that person that I was considered, you know, being in a relationship with, they would feel that, and that would make them question or make them wonder, you know, why does this make her feel this way about herself? Should I be worried? Should I be afraid? Should I not want to talk to her? So the relationships go better when you first accept your herpes and work through whatever issues you have around it. You have a greater chance of having a successful relationship. But as far as, you know, my DMs, they're still popping. As far as my real life dating life, it's still popping. Like, it's not stopping nobody who's really interested. It ain't gonna stop. Your herpes diagnosis ain't gonna stop you, men and women. I just want to say that, because men, I get a lot of men who say it's different for men. It's harder for men. It's not the same for a man. You know, women are going to be less likely to accept it. And I'm like, that's not true at all. You work on yourself. You work on your confidence. You work on showing up like, look, I'm a great man. I'm a great person. I have an STD, but that doesn't change who I am. If you kind of show up in that energy, you're not going to have a problem getting a woman.
We have a question from the audience. They want to know, do you have a partner now?
No. So right now I'm single, living my best life. You know what I'm talking about? Respectfully, responsibly, all of those things. But yes, so no, I definitely am. I'm dating.
Okay.
I would like to say this before we get started, if you take the moment. First of all, I want to seriously, from the heart, congratulate you for your strength and courage to come out and speak upon it and enlighten others who may be in the dark within themselves, hopefully to bring them out as well too with the information. So I really want to give you your props and flowers right now.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
When you speak with individuals who are just, got their diagnosis, what are some of the things that you talk to them about to help them build their self-esteem and their confidence and let them know that life isn't over?
Yeah, so initially I encourage them to feel all the feelings. I don't avoid the pain. Don't try to numb it away. Like, you can distract yourself from the pain temporarily, but in order to really get through it, you got to go through it. So I had to address what it is I felt about myself because of it. For everybody is going to be different. So ask yourself, what does your diagnosis really make you feel like when it comes to yourself negatively? Only you know, and you got to be willing to be honest with yourself about what those things are. So I had to be honest with myself and say, hey, my herpes makes me feel like I'm not going to get a man. I'm not going to have kids. No one's going to love me. Someone's going to have to settle to be with me. I had to be real about the fears I had about it. So that's what I would recommend anybody to do. whatever personal fears you have around it, you have to get those things out there so you can at least say, okay, worst case scenario, I didn't get a man, I didn't have any kids. Worst case scenario, all of the worst case scenarios happen. Now what? What am I left with? Okay, I'm left with myself. So let me figure this out. So I would just recommend asking yourself your worst case scenarios and realizing that you're still going to be alive after those worst case scenarios. I say get support, right? I created a group called Herpes Could Never, because when you find out you have herpes, a lot of the times you feel like you're alone. Until you start asking and talking to people and realizing how common it is, but you initially feel alone. So I say get support in the form of community. And that's why we created Herpes Can Never, because you need to see that it's normal and that a lot of people have it and it's not really stopping anything. And if it is, okay, let's work through it. So I would say get support, be honest with yourself. And if you need professional help, get professional help as well. That's another reason why I became a life coach. And that's another reason why a lot of people were booking me to talk to me about their herpes diagnosis, because they couldn't find another space that they could be that real and that honest and share something and know that the person that we're talking to 100% could relate to them. So get that support if you need it as well.
Okay. Now, when you talk about getting yourself together, not having children, so that prevents you from being able to reproduce all at the same time?
No, that's a myth. That's what you think. Herpes that's what you think when you get diagnosed. That's your misinformation around it. Herpes is actually one of, if not the least harmful STD as it relates to how it affects your body. It does not affect your ability to reproduce. It's not fatal. It literally lives in your nervous system. It's a virus. And that's why it's so nonchalant. The doctors treat it so nonchalantly because it is so common and it is so easily spread. And it is so, for a lot of people, they don't even have any outbreaks or any symptoms. So medically, it's not a big deal at all. It's more so the stigma behind it that makes people feel the shame and the guilt and embarrassment about having it.
Okay. Now, with it being so common, I read somewhere that like 85% of people who are over 50 have some form of the herpes. Is that close to the correct number or something?
Yes, it is. It's very accurate. By the time you reach the age of 50, 55, overwhelming majority of people have one form of herpes or another. Yes, that's true. That's true.
Now, with transferring it, is it always like if you're having unprotected sex and you have a mate, what can you do to prevent it outside of, of course, condoms and things of that nature from transferring it to your mate? If you don't have any breakouts or something like that?
Yeah. So that's something we get asked about all the time, right? So again, the stigma, miseducation will make you think that herpes only shows up on your genitals or on your mouth, right? People only have cold sores or oral herpes, or people have genital herpes. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Truth is that a herpes outbreak can be anywhere on your body. So a herpes outbreak, a lot of people have herpes on their fingertips. A lot of people have herpes on their cheeks, on their nose, on their legs, on their stomachs, on their butts. Like, you can have herpes anywhere on your body. It's about where a person's outbreak site comes in contact to your body. And if that's an opening in your body, like your mouth or your genitals, or if you have like a cut or, an opening on your skin, the virus can be transmitted, that way. So herpes can be spread non-sexually. It's not just something that can be spread when you're having sex. And so that's another thing that people, a lot of people who have cold sores or oral herpes, a lot of people who get herpes when they're a kid and they don't get it from having sex. They get it at a daycare. They get it from their cousin's house or their granny's house because, it's spread so easily. They have a problem with acknowledging that they have a STD because herpes can be spread non-sexually. But as far as having sex and as far as keeping a partner safe, it's about making sure your outbreak site is covered up. It's about not having sex when you have an outbreak. And so this is for the population who actually knows where their outbreak site is. Like for me, I'm asymptomatic. And so I don't have outbreaks. I don't have a place where I definitively know this is where my herpes is, so I can help someone like avoid spreading it to them. So if you know where your outbreak site is, it's about covering that area up. And so for a man, only if your outbreak site is on your penis does a condom actually is, effective. If your outbreak site is not on your penis and you're a man, putting a condom on is not going to prevent you spreading herpes. If you have herpes right here and you're a man wearing a condom, you can't spread herpes anywhere but where your outbreak site is. And so if your outbreak site is not on your penis, then then a condom isn't necessarily going to help. That's why you can still get herpes while wearing a condom. That's why you can still get herpes, using protection, because it's only that protection is only protecting what is protecting and nothing else is protected. So, but it's not a, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to add to that. So when a person, like you say, you're asymptomatic, so you don't have outbreaks. So how can a person be tested without, because I was told that you have to have an outbreak in order to be proven that you have the disease or to transmit the disease or not. So what is some of the best ways outside of it, or have they improved to your knowledge medically to detect this prior to an outbreak?
Yeah, that's such a good point too. So right, there's 3 ways that you can test for herpes. The most accurate way and the only way that you're actually testing for the virus is when the person has an outbreak, an active outbreak, where they can take a swab of that outbreak, wherever it is, and test it with against the HSV1 and HSV2 viruses to say, yes, you have this or you have that. For me, I actually got my blood drawn, and that's another way that they can test. And what they're doing there, they're not checking for the actual virus, because the herpes virus does not live in your blood. It's in your nervous system. So when they're checking your blood, they're checking your blood to see if you have antibodies to the virus. So they're checking your blood against all these different antibodies for these viruses, because if your body produces the antibodies, then it's basically saying that because your body has the virus inside of you. So my body will not produce antibodies for HSV2 if I did not have the HSV2 virus in my body. It only made those antibodies because I have the virus in my body. And so that's what they're actually checking in a blood test. They're checking to see if you have HSV1 antibodies, then they're going to conclude that you have HSV1, the virus. If you have HSV2 antibodies, they're going to conclude you have HSV2 because your blood has the antibodies. And so when we're talking about Dr. Sebi and we're talking about all these cures and we're talking about cleaning your blood, detoxing your blood, that will remove the antibodies from your body. So your blood. So when you go to the doctor and get tested, it would appear that no, now you're negative. You don't have the antibodies, but it did not kill the virus. The virus is still in your nervous system. You just cleaned your blood and got rid of the antibodies. And that's why you're testing negative on a blood test. So the blood tests are super inaccurate, right? They can determine and get you a positive test. However, there's so many false negatives. And that's why the best way is to get your outbreak site swabbed when you are having an outbreak.
Now we have another question from the audience, from Ms. Shantice Lachelle. She wants to know, how do you find out where your outbreak is?
That's a great question. So normally, if you're having an outbreak, you would know, right? So it's important to know your body. It's important to know what your body looks like. Daily, you should be looking at yourself in a mirror just without any clothes, just to get it, just in case you might develop a mole in some months, and you should just know your body. So if you see something that's not normally there, that could be an outbreak. If you have like tingling, itching, burning, those are some common prodrome symptoms. So symptoms that, accompany an outbreak. If you have nerve pain in a particular area. So these are some of the common things that indicate you're having an outbreak. But if you don't physically feel or see anything, then you might not know where your outbreak site is.
Okay. Now, like you were stating that it can also be a non-sexual disease or virus, right? So you can honestly say, like, we're playing basketball and your outbreak is on your arm and I'm checking you. I can honestly get it that way.
So yeah, so if we're like, if you're like, if we're shoulder to shoulder and I'm having an active outbreak on my shoulder right here, and you have like a cut on your arm or something, and we shoulder to shoulder, you can literally pass it that way. Like, I don't know if y'all remember a few months back, there was a black MMA fighter talking about he had herpes or something, and his name is Joel, but he said in the MMA world and the boxing world, everybody has herpes. Like, it's because you're such in close contact with each other all the time that it's just pretty common. Like, it's a part of kind of the world of being in those close contact sports, because you can be, if you're in close contact for an extended amount of time where you can have an opening on your skin, you can give each other herpes.
Right. And Dr. Harris had made a comment about, let me see, get back to it.
Right.
Okay. Dr. Harris made a comment
here we see.
About babies can get herpes from someone kissing them, and with a cold sore. You would not say to a baby is nasty or dirty. A virgin can get herpes, and they are not fast. Education is needed. So
absolutely.
So cold sores are a form of herpes.
Yes. So cold sores is just another word for herpes. And so the history behind that is generally when you get your first outbreak, for a lot of people, they have like cold and flu-like symptoms. That's traditionally what accompanies your first outbreak. If you have like a big onset, like you might feel like a runny nose, or you might feel like you have a cold or a flu. And so that's where the cold part came in. And then it does manifest itself in the form of a sore. So they just like, oh, I have a cold sore. It's like, no, you're having a herpes outbreak, but you're experiencing cold and flu-like symptoms. And it's not as traumatic to say as herpes, but yes, they are the exact same thing.
The herpes simplex 1 is what they consider that with cold sores.
Yes.
Now, also another question from the audience. They want to know if you can catch it from simply pushing a grocery cart.
No. So you can't catch herpes from pool water, from bath water, from eating off each other's plates, from pushing a grocery cart. No, get herpes in any of those ways. Another good question.
Now, with having tattoos, because I noticed that you have some tattoos.
Right.
You have to be very mindful with your tattoo artists when they make sure that they changing the needles and things like that before they go forward with tatting you up.
Yeah.
Different precautionaries for those who don't know that it's basically transferred by more than just sexual. It's blood and your sores and things of that nature. So you have to be very mindful when you're going to different places to get, tattooed. Make sure that you're not getting a bootleg, jackleg tattoo artist who don't have different needles or keep things disinfected.
Absolutely.
Now, how has it been for as we talked about the dating situation, and you said your DMs is popping?
I don't want to say that, but it is. But I don't want to say like it's not like even if it wasn't, I'd be all right.
You'd be all right, but
I'd be all right.
What was the first reaction to the first mate that you had, that you let them know that you had contracted that, and how did that make you feel?
Yeah, so when my first couple of disclosures, like after I got the diagnosis in 2018, my first couple of disclosures after that point were rocky. I was literally, there was a point to where I was so scared to say the word herpes. I felt like it was like stuck in my throat. Like it was the craziest thing. Like I would be like, I have, and I would like literally feel like I couldn't say the word. So, which of course I would be crying. So like, they're like, girl, are you okay? So it was not okay the first couple of ones, because I was sad about it. I was like, damn, I can't believe this is my reality. I can't believe I have to do this every single time I talk to a guy before I can actually like really get into talking to him. So those first couple weren't that good, honestly. And it wasn't the guy's rejection or anything. It was just my own I was still sad about it. So I definitely had a few of those disclosures in the beginning. I haven't always been this confident and okay with it.
All right. Another question is, how can you tell the difference from a cold sore and an outbreak?
So they're essentially the same thing, right? An outbreak, a cold sore is an outbreak. So if you're having a sore, that is what your outbreak looks like. That's what where your outbreak site is. So they're essentially the same thing.
Okay. Now, with the support, your family, like, how did your family like step in and support you and help you? Or how long did it take you before you was able to come out and have that conversation?
Well, I have a twin. So I told my twin sister the same day it happened. Like I told her the same day. Outside of that, the rest of my family found out when I made the YouTube video. So they were like, they were a little shocked. I'm not going to lie. They were a little shocked, but I had to realize this is such a personal thing. I always say a herpes diagnosis comes into your life to teach you something about yourself, about God, about life. And so one of the things that taught me was like, it don't matter if my family accepts it. It don't matter if my family thinks I'm weird for what I'm doing, that I want to help people on the internet that I don't even know. It doesn't matter, ultimately it don't matter. So I had to get over my family's perception, because a lot of times people like, I want to tell my mom or my sister, but I think my mom might judge me or I might want to tell my brothers or my sisters, but I heard them talking shit about somebody with herpes. So can I really be, tell them? I'm like, look, work on getting okay with it with yourself. And as you tell people, their opinions won't matter, whether good or bad, because they can support you all day long and love you all day long and say, it's okay, it's going to be okay. But if you still feel like, no, it's not, then it don't matter if they support you, and or the same thing. If they say, oh God, I wouldn't tell nobody that, or, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. None of my family tell me that, and I actually agree with that, because I'm like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. So the family and friend support and encouragement, appreciate it if it's there, but realize that, if it's not there, it's okay too. And that they're not bad people, and they're not, nothing's wrong because they don't understand it or accept it. It's just, it's not their place to. They got their own issues.
My question.
Yeah.
How does it compare? Because I feel like when AIDS first came out on scene, everybody was harping on it to become spokespersons, and the HIV, everybody wanted to get on. But we've had herpes for a very long time, long time, but yet nobody really truly spoke out upon it and gave true information and stuff like you're doing. Why do you suppose that is a lack in the medical field for this STD?
Yeah, I just really feel like the medical field doesn't see it as a threat. It's not HIV can turn into AIDS, which can become fatal. If I believe so, if that can happen in that way. But herpes is not fatal. So I feel like upon the limited education on the virus, like I feel like in medical school, herpes is like a blip on the radar. It's like, oh, it's a skin rash. Let's move on to the next thing. It can be contracted sexually. It can also be contracted non-sexually. Like, I feel like it's so briefly covered that's why it doesn't get that much attention on the medical side. And I just feel like on the side where people, like real life people living with the virus, talk about it, I feel like because literally of the stigma that we're taught externally, no one feels like they want to sacrifice themselves socially in order to, be like, look, you really can live a happy, healthy life with herpes, a full life. But no one wants to be that, I wouldn't have probably chose this. Like, again, God really chose this for me. I was just being obedient in what he was telling me to do at the time. And then I really saw how necessary it was after the fact. So I just feel like a lot of people don't feel they like society does not make them feel like they can be honest about something like this without them being like blackballed off the internet.
Okay. Again, Dr. Harris wanted to know, why is it so negatively looked at, and you have so many different medications and stuff for HIV and all these different things, but comedians, TV shows, and everybody else make light of or talk negatively about herpes?
Yeah. It was in the 1970s. Time magazine did like a cover story about herpes, and really that's where the stigma was really born, and it was almost like looked at back then as like a punishment as a result from being sexually promiscuous. So it was like a lot more that went into it, a herpes diagnosis, than just the actual diagnosis of this virus that's essentially harmless. So it's just society and what we've been fed over and over. Like that's the only, that there's no other explanation behind why the stigma exists. It is a lie. It's not true. It's just no other reason. And then as far as the antivirals that are available, so if you do have herpes, they attempt to prescribe you antivirals, which you can take daily or as needed, depending on, how often you have an outbreak. They want to get people dependent on taking these antivirals to manage this virus in their body that they have full control over managing with, diet and exercise and a proper like self-care regimen. So
now I have 2 more questions from the audience.
Okay, yeah, they blowing it up. What's up, y'all? Okay.
They blowing it up today.
Right, that's right.
Okay, I love y'all's audience. That's what's up. Okay.
They want to know, can you get it from smoking with someone, and how long do the outbreaks last?
So no, you cannot get it from smoking with somebody. I remember now, if I was having an oral outbreak, I would not recommend you sharing anything that you were smoking with anybody or drinking with anybody, period. If you're having an active oral outbreak, I would not share anything with anybody. If you're not having an active outbreak, if your outbreaks are not on your mouth, you cannot spread herpes by smoking anything with somebody. So I would say no to that. As far as how long do outbreaks last, outbreaks can last 24 hours. Outbreaks can last 6 hours. Outbreaks can last 10 to 14 days. Like the length of an outbreak lasting is going to be determined by so many different factors and variables. So, if hey, these are my prodrome symptoms. These are the symptoms that happen before every single outbreak. I always get this tingling in my leg, or I always get this itching in the spot, or always starts to feel tingling in this area right before I feel like an outbreak's coming. The better you can identify what those symptoms are that happen before an outbreak and start really treating and triaging in that area, you can prevent a full-blown outbreak from even happening. Like you can manage your symptoms to where you can prevent one from happening. So outbreaks, the length of an outbreak will depend on what you're doing to manage it before you have one, while you're having one, and just, you all together.
It was also said, and I want to know if you feel it was informed that stress can actually cause your outbreaks to come.
Absolutely. Yes. So stress is going to lower your immune system. When your immune system's lower, the virus is like, okay, it's time to get active, right? Like the virus has more of a chance to get active if your body's already fighting other things. And stress is something so difficult for the body to fight. But because we're so programmed and under so much stress, we tolerate such a level of stress that we're not even aware of how much stress we already under. And so you might not even feel stressed, but your body is stressed because you just are managing it so well. So stress absolutely can trigger an outbreak. And so like, I know we'll talk about this before we go, but I have, I'm going to make sure I give you guys my contact information, but we wrote ebooks about this. We have a specific product line we recommend. Like we've literally done so much of the work to get the resources that have not been available for HSV because no one's wanted to talk about it. But, it's a lot different now. Being diagnosed with herpes now, it's a lot different than being diagnosed even like 5 years ago when these resources weren't here. So be encouraged, anybody who has it. If you know anybody who has it, I just want to encourage you that like, it was the thing that really changed my life for the better. Like I'm the most confident I've ever been in my life. I'm the most secure. I'm the happiest I've ever been because it really was the thing that forced me to learn how to really love myself. And that is the valuable lesson that, I feel like does not have a price. So, hey, it only gets better if that's what you want it to.
Okay. Dr. Harris wants to know, can you share your best disclosure with a man? What is a mature acceptance of a disclosure look like, and what do you look for?
Yeah, so my best disclosure was like this, my boyfriend that I had in 2019. It was like out of a Tyler Perry movie. He was just like, Amber, you've already been through so much. I'm so sorry. This isn't going to change anything. He was just very open and receptive to me sharing with him that I had herpes. But I feel like a mature acceptance looks like someone who would allow you the space to feel safe enough to share something like that. And also someone who's going to, my disclosure isn't just a one-sided conversation where I feel like I got to tell a guy that I have herpes, like, oh, now I have to, share this secret with him. Now I have to share this shameful thing about myself. My disclosures look, before we have sex, we need to talk about what that looks like and what that means. Like, when's the last time we've been tested? Like, are we having sex with anybody else right now? Are we only having sex with each other? Like, are we using protection? Like, it just needs to be a conversation about it before it actually goes down. We don't just need to be talking about what we're going to do to each other. Like, we need to talk about literally when's the last time you've been tested, and let me see your test results. Oh, last time I was tested was in, March, and those results came back and I actually tested positive for HSV too. That's herpes. And, it looks like that. It looks like a dialogue, not a monologue. So someone who's just going to be able to be willing to participate in that type of dialogue with you, I feel like that's mature and understanding. Like, an acceptance isn't always, you can't expect anyone to do anything. And that's another part. A successful disclosure looks like releasing control of how the person decides, what they do with the information. If people always be like, oh, Amber, but if you was dating a guy or talking to a guy and he told you had herpes, you probably wouldn't stay. And I'm like, well, it depends on who the guy was. If he was somebody I really wasn't interested in, no, I probably would be good. If it was somebody that I was just looking to have sex with or temporarily hook up with, that might make me reconsider now that I know this person has a lifelong STD. But if I'm really feeling this person and I'm interested in this person and we vibing and we're building, I'm not going to let an STD diagnosis prevent me from moving forward with that. And so that's the same space you got to give somebody else, right? It could make them stop wanting to talk to you. That's the reality of the matter. Or it could be something where, like, I don't really care. I don't care about that at all. Let's talk about it. Let's work through it. So just the mature responses, giving somebody the space to feel how they feel about it. And you feel how you feel about it. You just can't be sad or mad or disappointed in somebody else's reaction.
Okay.
I know that was long-winded. I hope that answer. It's a lot, y'all. I didn't know we was ready for this herpes thing. I was like, oh Lord, I can go all day with it.
I told you we had been anticipating this conversation.
Absolutely.
Have you ever felt rejected or felt like someone rejected you because of your diagnosis?
Yeah, for sure. So my first couple of disclosures, and even like a guy that I, was casually talking to, I told him about it. His energy totally changed. It was just like, I could totally feel he was not feeling it anymore. And I'm like, okay, so I've definitely felt rejected by it, but I have herpes is, what helped me change my definition of a rejection. I don't feel like I can be rejected for it anymore, because I don't reject myself because of it. So if somebody's not feeling it, I don't even, I don't feel like, oh, I'm sad or I'm mad or disappointed. Like, I literally be like, okay, it is what it is. My person is going to be okay with it. So a true rejection just, is just like, okay, will you just save me some time probably?
Yeah. John, you know what? It's funny because now I got to ask you this question. You mentioned that you have a twin sister. So my question is she catching some of the flack because of other people knowing it's you, but thinking that when they see her, it's her? And has she called you and said, sis, let me tell you now what you have started? People are coming to you right. You know what I mean? That's very interesting. What I was saying about having a twin. So I'm wondering, has she been victimized or been, pointed out thinking it's you when it's, it's just herself?
So thankfully, we don't look that much alike to where people can't tell us apart. Like, you can tell us apart. However, my siblings have been, my hometown, Louisville, isn't that big. So I'm known in my city for, I have a salon, so I do eyebrows. So I'm kind of known in my city for doing eyebrows. And my siblings are known in my city for doing their respective other things. So when the YouTube video came out and everybody knew I had herpes, all of my siblings were bombarded with like messages or like people like, hey, your sister's wild, or hey, like, oh my God, I can't believe Amber has herpes, like, or hey, that's so weird, or why would she share that? So they have gotten their fair share of like interaction from people just kind of like giving them their own unwanted like opinions on about what I'm doing. But thankfully they've been all receiving it in love and been really supportive.
Now, when you got diagnosed with the STD, did you have to seek out some form of therapy to help you get through what you were going through, or was it something that you just took a step back and you reevaluated yourself, or how did that go?
That's exactly what I did. I took a step back and I reevaluated myself. So I took a step back. I started getting up early and like journaling and doing a daily devotional. I started working out consistently. I just started going to bed earlier. You know, I just started putting better practices in place for my life, stuff that I've probably been needing to do anyway, but I had just hit that rock bottom low enough to where I was like, okay, now if nothing else makes me actually start doing better, this is going to make me start doing better. And so one of the things that I always wanted to do was be a life coach. And so actually I got diagnosed in 2018 and I took my life coach certification in 2019. So my diagnosis also was the thing that kind of pushed me into really putting my head down and actually doing the things that I wanted to do for myself, because I was like, well, I might as well put all my attention and energy and effort on me. And that really paid off. So I didn't seek any professional counseling. I kind of became the professional counseling for others by getting my life coach certification and talking more about it publicly. But those first couple kind of year and a half, it was just me.
So when you're speaking with someone else about the situation, is it therapeutic for you as well?
Oh, yes, it is. I learned something from every client. Yes, I love listening to other people's experiences teach you so much. Yes.
Now, when you talk about contracting and being in a situation with, how long were you in I'm thinking that you was in a relationship and you end up contracting. I don't want to assume. But,
I wasn't in a relationship.
Okay.
It was in a full-blown situationship.
In the situation, how long was you in the situation, and what was the response of the individual when you had to tell them that they passed this along like a football?
Y'all, oh my God. So that was part of my YouTube video. I actually got ghosted by the guy who I thought gave my herpes diagnosis at the time. It was like this 3-month Instagram fling. And, you know, again, it was just like a summertime fling. And it was after, you know, basically he kind of just ghosted me. He kind of stopped talking to me after a while. So we weren't even talking anymore when I went to the doctor. And so when I went to the doctor after dealing with him, I wasn't even having any symptoms. I wasn't having any outbreak. I didn't even feel like I had an STD. I was just going anticipating a negative test result, because I didn't feel like I had an STD. I just wanted to get the negative test results. So when I moved forward in any type of future relationship, I knew my test results. I knew my status. And so it was going to the doctor after that 3-month situationship. That's when I tested positive for herpes. So I assumed it was the last guy that I was with, the 3-month situationship guy, when in all actuality, it could have been anybody before him. Like it didn't necessarily have to be him because he was the last person I slept with. Herpes can literally lie dormant in your body for years. I could have had herpes for months before dealing with him and just had never been tested for it. So it was in my ignorance that I assumed it was the last person that I was with. And so I shared that with a lot of people. Don't get caught up on who you think gave it to you, because you're probably wrong. But I can't tell you you're wrong about your own life, right? You're going to sit up here and debate me that you know who did it. And now he's out spreading it with everybody else, or she's out not telling people that she has it, but left you before it. Who you got it from and how you got it, unfortunately, really is not going to matter at the end of the day. It's like, you got it. What are we going to do about it from here? And that's kind of some tough love, but you need that tough love when it comes to getting over something like this, because it's tough to get over.
Now, we had spoke about the Dr. Sebi has those different, what they say are cures. But what
Right.
you have acknowledged the fact that they were just blood cleaners taking the antibodies out. So if they're taking the antibodies out of your body, how dangerous is that for you not to have the antibodies?
Right. So it's not really going to be too dangerous per se, but it could, trigger an outbreak. It could make you more susceptible to have one, in the future over time, because you don't really have antibodies in your body to fight off having the virus kind of flare up and be active again. So it's not going to be dangerous in the fact that it's going to be like fatal or harmful to you. It's just kind of counterproductive to the goal. Like doing a cleanse is one thing, doing a blood cleanse or, cleansing your body, your blood, that's probably not a bad thing to do, but doing it with the intentions on getting rid of your herpes diagnosis or getting rid of the virus, no, that's not the smartest.
Oh, we have a call on the line for you, Amber. Okay. I tell you, we got it popping for you tonight.
All right. Good evening, calling. Thank you for calling in for the Real to Real 360 show. You have a question for Amber at this time?
Hello. So I actually had several questions, but as I just was watching the podcast, you was pretty much answering most of the questions that I've had. But back to the statement that was made where the herpes the outbreaks can come about during stress. I know for me, mine's come every month from my menstrual cycle. So that's when I started targeting when was it constantly coming out. And I've noticed it always came up during my menstrual cycle. So I was trying to figure out, okay, so how can I prevent it? So I have the medication. So I started figuring out if I take the medication right before my menstrual cycle comes, I can kind of help, prevent it from being so heavy. But obviously there's nothing we can get away from. But mines occur on my buttocks, right? So when you was talking about it being open exposure, how can you cover that up when it's on my, on my derriere?
Yeah. So first, my first part of my response would be, so your outbreaks now, are you managing them? Like, how long are they lasting? How long are you having an active outbreak every month?
During the duration of the cycle.
Okay. And so when your period clears up, like your outbreak goes away?
Yes. And it'll go away faster if I'm taking the medication during the cycle time.
And so have you kind of journaled or just kind of been mindful and aware? Because a lot of the population says that they get outbreaks around the time of their period as well. And so what we always suggest is, okay, take an inventory the week before your period, the 7 to 10 days prior to you supposed to start, and literally log every day how much water you drink. Literally log every single thing that you eat those 7 to 10 days prior to. Literally log how many times you go to the bathroom and the consistency and the, how many times you peed and the color of it. Literally log how many hours a night you slept those nights and how much activity you got. So just to kind of take an inventory of your body to see, okay, what are the patterns that I go through prior to? Because a lot of times people are able to catch, you're likely doing something to trigger on an outbreak prior to your cycle. And a lot of times your cycle is just kind of like a side effect, right? Or, it doesn't have as much to do with it. And maybe you can control it even better and you not have to experience it and think that every time you have a period, you're going to have to have an outbreak. So I would just encourage to body journal for the next 2 or 3 months before your period and kind of see what your patterns. Am I eating a lot of a certain thing? Am I drinking a lot of a caffeine or energy drink, or not drinking that much water? Am I consuming foods high in arginine? So kind of just see what your habits are. And as far as covering your outbreak site up, so I don't know if you do anything topically to manage your outbreaks. What do you apply anything on them, or just take your antivirals, orally?
So actually, yes, because like I said, it comes out during my menstrual cycle, so I take the medication during the same time. So it holds it a little bit at bay. It doesn't keep it away completely, but it does, help, prevent it from being strong and spreading. And then obviously I get the marks, right? So I put pure vitamin E on it. So mark up my body really bad. So that actually helps, because as I'm doing it, like I'll do it right before it's coming. So I just constantly put pure vitamin E oil on it, and then my skin clears up. So after it goes away, then it's like it's never existed. But if I didn't I actually just found my vitamin E like 2 weeks ago. So the mark is there. So that particular mark from the last result was there, but when I was able to catch it, in enough time, then it goes away smoothly, like nothing is really there. So that's my regimen that I use for that. And then to circle back to the first topics you were speaking of in regards to addressing men. So I have disclosed to at least like 2 partners at the time, and they were receptive of it. Obviously things didn't go the way it was, because I am back still single, but it wasn't because of that as to why we went our separate ways. But it was very fearful and stressful, to be honest about that, because I hear you talk about being confident, and I strive to be that. I'm really not. Still nervous about it, because I do still feel ashamed about it. And I believe I found out my diagnosis about it in 2012. So we're in 2022. 10 years, I've still been living in fear to sharing that information. But I have the fear because it just feels like I'm always running up into assholes. They're not mature men. You know what I'm saying? So something that's dear to me, I don't think it should just be easily shared with somebody who's not mature enough to accept and receive that type of information, because I don't want to be exposed to just any and everybody if they're not mature enough to be receptive to that type of information. So I think there is still a fine line of when you should share that information with a man, because that's not something you just want to walk around, in life, like, hey, by the way, I have herpes. Hey, how you doing? Going like, what I'm saying? It's
like, unless you're me, you tell the internet. But yeah,
what I'm saying?
I agree.
Around and be, and let everybody into your inner circle with that type of knowledge. So how do you still protect that? And when is a good point to introduce that information? How far into the relationship do you go? Because some men can flip it on you and say, well, man, we've been dating for 2 months, 3 months, and you didn't say anything non-sexual. Even if you're not. So it's like, okay, well, when was you going to tell me? Why didn't you tell this to me right away? So did you take my choice away from me? Or maybe I was just trying to figure out to see if you was mature enough to learn this information. So it's on us, right? The carrier. Because I believe I'm a carrier. I guess I'm assuming I'm a carrier because it constantly comes out when I have my menstrual. So I really don't know if I'm asymptomatic or not.
Yeah, no, you're not asymptomatic, right? So if you have outbreaks, you're not asymptomatic, which is okay, right? I mean, but I still have the virus as well. And so I'm still able to transmit it. You are as well, but you're not always contagious. You're not always able to spread the virus, right? So if your outbreaks go away, that time when you're not having an active outbreak, you can participate in sex normally, or any ways you would like. If you had an active outbreak, you would cover that area up or avoid exposing that area. So that means maybe you only do certain positions if you have any remnants of an outbreak left, or it just you might have to modify the positions that you're in, but you're still definitely able to have sex. And as far as when to tell somebody, I agree. It's not something that I immediately share, that I would recommend immediately sharing. You need to figure out if you like this person and not just be judging and basing you liking them on if you think they're mature enough to handle you telling them you have herpes. Like, what about this person do you enjoy? What about them that makes your life better? If you say you've been sharing with assholes or you've been experiencing those, like, before you even worry about having to tell somebody about your herpes, now it's just a matter of vetting and qualifying better quality men to even be interested in those men long enough to be like, okay, this is something I can see getting physical. So because of that, hey, let's have this conversation together. But it's not something that I would immediately tell. It's something that I would wait to get to know somebody, then share, over time. But you're not holding somebody a hostage, or you're not keeping a choice away from them. I don't agree with that. So
Really?
just want to share that. Sorry, it was a long-winded, y'all.
No worries. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for calling.
We appreciate that.
Sharing.
We appreciate that.
Yes.
And hope
your confidence
things work out in your journey where you can get confidence in yourself.
Ken, before I knew we running low on time, but can you make sure you let us know?
Hold on. Let's go about 15 more minutes. But we got like a couple more questions that individuals want to get out. And
okay.
We can go, you know what I mean? If that's okay with you, Amber. You know what
I mean?
Yeah,
I definitely have 15 minutes to go. We can definitely extend it a little bit extra.
Okay, because obviously
y'all gonna have to have me back. Y'all gonna have to have me back for another episode. Okay,
we definitely gonna do that.
Okay,
we already got that in the works.
okay. Well then y'all good. We good. What's up? What they want to know?
All right. Have you ever coached someone who refuses to disclose, and how do you handle that?
I have coached people who have not disclosed in their past. And so I am always an advocate for disclosing. I think you should always disclose. I feel like a lot of times we say, no one gave us the choice. I wish someone would have told me they had it before, me dealing with them, because that would have changed what I might have done. So I'm an advocate for disclosing. If you don't feel like you should or feel like you have to, that's between you and, God or whatever higher power you believe in, or just yourself. I can't make another grown-up do anything. All I can say is I'm a proponent for disclosing. All I can say is I would ask the person to challenge themselves. Why are you not disclosing? Where is that coming from? What is that really rooted in? And to deal with that. But I have coached people who have not disclosed in the past, but a lot of times those people are eaten up with guilt and shame about not disclosing and, don't want to do that anymore. So I always say, like, the shame and guilt, the shame of not disclosing is a lot heavier than just like the fear of having that uncomfortable conversation and just getting it out of the way.
Okay. Now, another question is, do you ever go into the school systems and talk with the young people and the students about HSV 1 and 2?
I've never gone into the school systems. I have not. No. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be, because they need that. Also, too, are there any websites for dating for individuals who are who have herpes, and how do that transpire when individuals know that they both have herpes as S1 or 2? How do that look?
Yeah, so there is a website called Positive Singles. That's the most common one to my knowledge. Positive Singles. A lot of times I hear from our community, we call them our cousins. Our cousins say that that dating app is trash, but it is the most common one. I'm sure there are others. I'm not too well versed in them though. A lot of times people in our community say, yeah, it's going to be easier for me to just date somebody with herpes. And then you find out that those people are hurt and damaged and sad and stigmatized like you. And then it's just like, okay, now we just feeling sorry for ourselves and with each other. That's not fun. So a lot of times you think it's safer or better to date within the community. And I say, don't ever limit yourself. Don't ever say, I have to date a person who has herpes, or I'm only going to date a person who doesn't have it. Just say, whoever I'm going to date, I'm going to be open to having a happy, healthy, sexually responsible, situation with them. But there are dating sites. But again, if you're still not okay with it, then dating sites really ain't going to do nothing but, expose those insecurities.
Now, you have ebooks and things like that. How can individuals contact you to receive the ebooks and book you for lectures and things like that?
Yes, so our website is www.herpescouldnevwr.com. So on our website, you can find all of our ebooks. You can find the product line that we recommend called Vanquish Care. It's the product line that we recommend to treat your outbreaks topically. So there's a soap, there's a spray, and there's a cream. That's why I was asking the caller, what she was applying to her outbreaks, because a lot of times people are having outbreaks, but not knowing what soap to use or not knowing what products are okay for them. So there's access to that as well on our website. You can get to our Facebook group. Everything you need is at our website, www.herpescouldnevwr.com. We're also Herpes Could Never on Instagram as well. So at Herpes Could Never.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to hold Miss Amber too much longer, but we want to bring her back. I want to thank you for coming on and being very informative. Like we tell you all the time, we bring you.
Yes, thank you for putting it on the screen. I see that. Thank you, sir. Okay, the technical man over there in the background holding it down. I know that's right.
Definitely holding it down. But we want to thank you for coming on and informing our audience, because like we said behind scenes, that these are some things that we think are taboo, and they're really not. Herpes is just as common as the common cold, especially nowadays, and is not life-threatening. So you're able to live with it, and it's not necessarily a sexually transmitted disease. You can actually contact it non-sexually. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any more questions, please contact Miss Amber. And Kay, put that website back up again.
Yes, there we go.
Put that website right back up again, so y'all be able to get all the questions that you need answered. And also too, I'm not going to send the Instagram and the social medias. I'm going to let you do that.
Yes, herpescouldnevwr.com is where you can get everything. All access to all our social media.
All access to everything. And like I said, it was a great show, and thank you for coming on. Do you have anything you want to say before we check out? And if you can, 2 minutes so we can discuss you coming back.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I had a great time. And thank you for, showing up and just how well the show is done. Like, you can just tell the labor of love that y'all put into y'all's episodes and y'all's brand, and, just having conversations like this and being willing and open to having a platform to bring, me on to talk about these subjects. This is what also helps break the stigma. This is what helps bring awareness, and it's so needed. And so, I just want to say thank you, and I'm looking forward to coming back.
Yes, we're looking forward to having you. But Kay, we're getting to that time, big bro.
Oh, definitely. Thank you once again, Miss Amber. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Like I say to all our guests, we giving your flowers while you yet live. So listen, you don't have a home away from home here. You got a home right here.
Yes.
So if there's anything that we can do at our disposal for you, please don't hesitate to call and reach out to us the best way possible, and we'll do our best to accommodate you in all shape, form, or fashion that we can do this, because it's people like you that have now becoming a real spokesperson about things and showing the truth and the light, so other people can open up and be more focused on themselves and not have that stigma of scaredness like most people do have, and it's a learning tool and a working tool that you have given these people. So again, I thank you very much, and I applaud you for real. We look forward to having you back on the show.
The love is received.
Dr. We appreciate you, Dr. Harris, always. You know the deal.
Always, Doc.
100% Q, Miss C.
Thank y'all for everybody.
We like everybody that commented tonight and chimed in. Make sure you come back when we have this beautiful young lady on, because we will have her back on as soon as possible where we can. We don't want no misinformation going out unclosed and not discovered and talked about. We want to make sure people are 100% on it. All right.
Definitely make sure that they're not misinformed.
Right. Ja, who we got coming up?
Man, I tell you, I'm ready. I'm still trying to get through the day, but like I'm telling you, the information for today was so impactful.
Absolutely.
But ladies and gentlemen, be mindful that tomorrow, who we have tomorrow, okay, we have Jay Reed the nephew, Southern Soul artist Jay Reed the nephew will be on real2reel360. Tune in, tell a friend, we will be here.
All right, gentlemen.
All righty.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're gonna talk offline about the next time I'm gonna come back. We're gonna schedule that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna go to the after party now.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the after party now.
Sounds good. I'll meet y'all there.
Hold on. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Peace to my co-host Josh Amel Allah. Peace to the mighty 5% nation of gods and nerves, to all the human families of the planet Earth. We salute you again with love, peace, and happiness. Thank you for tuning in to the real2reel360 show for this dynamic and explosive episode. And we want to make sure you don't miss another one. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, and just join in with us so we will bring you more of this right here. All right. So all I want to do is all I always do is say love, peace, and happiness. And let's get it in with the way we do it. We going in the way we go out. We're real2reel360, baby. Peace.